Let's bring in Major General Chip Chapman, who joins us down the line and did serve in Afghanistan. Chip, very good afternoon to you. Just first of all, your reflection on those events a year ago.
Well, we left the Taliban in possession of the battlefield, so that looks like a strategic defeat, and indeed it was. And we were all culpable for that. But I think we have to also remember what the US strategic objective was, and it always was in terms of Al-Qaeda, to prevent catastrophic attacks on the US mainland. And you didn't need a counter-terrorist protecting the homeland presence forevermore there with a permanent garrison. It's not 2001 anymore. There's a Department of Homeland Security, there's a TSA, the Sky Marshals, there's data as the new oil with artificial intelligence and machine learning, airport security. There was no need to have a forever war there. I agree that it may have emboldened people, but let's be clear, all those strategic objectives are still the case. There is no international terrorism emanating internationally from Afghanistan in the West at the moment. And indeed, the month before the withdrawal, that's exactly what CIA Director Burns and Avril Haines from the Directorate of National Intelligence in America both said, that there is no longer a major danger of transnational terrorism to the West from Afghanistan. The Taliban were never transnational terrorists. They were always sort of more to the ethnic homeland as Pashtun nationalists. That is different than Al-Qaeda, but Al-Qaeda and IS and ISK as well are no longer the threats they were in 2014, 2015, and the years before that, after 2001.
So the bottom line being, Chip, that essentially you feel that the decision was the right decision, even if it was badly handled.
Yeah, and you have to remember it was actually a bipartisan decision originally. The Doha Agreement was actually negotiated under a Trump administration. Now, the only thing then was the timing of the thing. The original withdrawal was going to be in April 22. It was extended to August 22, which gave people another 4 months to get their ducks in a row. Now, if this had been vital national interest, every other nation in the world could have said, we will stay there. Would that have helped the Afghan security forces? I don't think it would, because the thing which always stuck with me was General Nicholson was the head of Resolute Support. And you have to remember that from December 2014, NATO forces, the UK, US, were not involved in combat operations anymore. It was merely a training and support mission. And he said in June 2018 that Afghan security forces were providing the power, NATO was providing the training and support, and the Afghan people were providing the will. It turned out that the Afghan people and the Afghan security forces were neither providing the power and the will, and that is the essential big difference between what is going on in Ukraine, where there it is a nation fighting a war in the way that in Afghanistan it was not.
What's the future, though, for Afghanistan, Chip? Clearly, as you say, there's not going to be direct Western involvement anytime soon. The Taliban are most definitely in charge. It still, though, is a place that is incredibly difficult in terms of levels of poverty, starvation, rights for women, and so on. Are we simply essentially seeing Afghanistan slip into the Afghanistan that existed pre-2001?
Yeah, it's a period of sullen repression when, any notion of girls going to school, human rights, major poverty, that's all true. And, we often respond emotionally to that, and we should, because they're terrible images. But any spillage and spillover from terrorism at the moment from Afghanistan is to do with the groups in Afghanistan which threaten the countries around the periphery of Afghanistan. So to the north, you've got the Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, threatening Uzbekistan. China, very worried because of a group called ETIM, the East Turkestan Islamic movement. And indeed, there was an attack in Kunduz last October by Al-Uyghur, and that's the Uyghurs, and the Chinese are fearful of that. And of course, they border part of Afghanistan. But more importantly, it's the Pakistan and India with a whole kaleidoscope of groups who are the transnational groups to be fearful of, such as the TTP, that's Taliban Pakistan, ISK, as we already know, a group called Jaish-e-Mohammed, and from an Indian perspective, Lashkar-e-Toiba. So there are lots of groups there, but all these groups thrive, as they always have, when you have fragile and failing states. That's the same in Pakistan. It's the same in Afghanistan. Now, in 2000, after the Taliban took control, only 3 nations recognized them. At the moment, no nation recognizes the Taliban administration, Taliban 2.0, and won't. And that's what gives us potentially the leverage in the future over the Taliban administration at the moment.